Hey, boys and girls, guys and gals, welcome to another episode of Sweet Tea. I know we're running a little bit late, but hey, shit happens. So, anyway, there's a welcome to another show. We're doing things a little different today, as you'll see here shortly. Um, hey, if you're new to the show, be sure and subscribe. Um, hit the like button, doesn't cost a thing. Uh, leave a comment. Hey, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions. We got an author that'll be in the house with us tonight. Be sure to jump in chat, ask your questions. We'll be glad to get those answered. So, hey, that little bell, the notifications, ring that bell like you're standing in a tower with no pants on, and you know exactly what I'm talking about because I know you've done it. And if you hadn't, fake it and just do it. So anyway, there's enough of that, enough of rambling. We got Joyce Foskin in house. She'll be talking about her book Twilight Realm. So without further ado, she drove through a snowstorm, you guys, to be on this podcast. She was in a hurry. She was trying to get home, driving, putting her life in peril just to come to you to tell you guys about her book. So without further ado, let me bring in Joyce.
Hello. I made
Welcome, Joyce.
it.
She made it. She lived. She didn't get lost in the blizzard,
No,
and we're
no, I
so glad.
didn't.
Thank
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on tonight, Joyce.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize because I do have a cold. So I'm going to be squeaking all the way through, you know.
It's all good. Everybody gets sick, so they can completely relate. So
Yes.
anyway, let's jump right into it. Let's kind of talk about uh, Twilight Realm. Where did this come from? How long have you been sitting on this idea?
Actually, I was sitting on this idea probably back in 2020, but pretty much all my life, I've always been a writer and an artist. So when I decided to write this book, um, I wrote a children's book prior that didn't really go anywhere. It was just something to write about me, and
Right.
people really liked it. And then they're like, and I'm like, well, I was too insecure to publish it, so I decided to write Twilight Realm, and there was a new backstory about fairies and stuff. I always loved fairies. I always loved the fairy realm, and that was because I was brought up in Germany. So
Okay.
I was brought up by the Black Forest, right by the Black Forest. We used to
Oh
walk
wow.
the forest, and there was always stories my mom would tell about gnomes and fairies and stuff like that. So I was always intrigued with the fairy realm. Um, I did a lot of research for my book, but that was something that when I was writing this, I wanted to incorporate a fairy story that nobody ever heard of.
Right.
And there's not a lot of fairy stories out there that are good. I
Right.
can't
Right.
find
You
much.
always
I mean,
got the
there's
dark
some, but
fairy, or yeah, it's always some kind of bad fairy or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Or they're always the villain, or
Right.
there's not enough fairy in the movie. And I mean, the only fairy movies that are all fairies is Tinkerbell. I was a
Yeah.
fan, but Disney fan too. So when I wrote this book, there was 2020, the pandemic was happening,
Right.
and when I started writing this book, a few years prior, both my parents died within 6 months apart.
Oh wow.
And
So sorry to hear that.
when my mother passed away, she said she didn't live enough. She was about 70, and she said she didn't live enough. And I told her she lived a great life. She was awesome. She traveled the world. But I think she wanted to see my daughter grow up, and my daughter was little when
Right.
she died.
Right. Mm.
And so with that and losing my father. later with a broken heart, um, I was just in this turmoil of losing myself. I lost myself completely. And when I started writing this book, I based it on my life. So I based it on the situation, that the experience that I put, what I was going through. So even
Gotcha.
though it has a fairy realm and everything in it, the main character, who's her name is Eve, is going through loss of her mother and father. So she lost her mother, but she lost her father in the past. And so she inherits a farmhouse in the Black Forest. So with her losing her mother, who was her rock, she ended up losing her confidence, and um, depression kicked in and everything. And so this is a story of balance, gaining confidence back. Um, there's a mystery, twists and turns in it. The character, the main thing is balance, because through this grief, when you go through grief, you go through anger,
Right.
um,
The
and
5 steps.
turmoil, so, and then you finally do acceptance. So when I finished this book, I felt accepted. It was the acceptance for me, because it healed me when I wrote it.
Gotcha.
So with the balance of light and dark, which are two fairy queens in there, um, it just brought my soul together, because we are all imperfect. We
Right.
all have
Right.
a light side and a dark side. You can't just you
Definitely.
know
You got the two sides of the coin. Yeah.
yeah. Or I was basing it by the old Cherokee um, story of what wolf would you feed? The light wolf
Right.
or the dark wolf, but you need to feed both.
Exactly. To keep that
So
balance.
to do the
Exactly.
balance, yeah. So it was a healing process for me. Um, the confidence that I still didn't have to publish it until I let people start reading it.
Right.
So finally, I jumped onto Instagram back in 2022, and I gained some followers. In February, I think I hit 2,000 with my art,
Yeah.
and then I published in February, I think 2023, and it just blew up from there. I just didn't expect a lot of my sorry, cat. um, yeah,
She
I
just
didn't.
wants to be seen. That's all it is.
Yeah, I didn't expect all my followers to start purchasing my book, and of course, you have your family and friends
Yeah.
and stuff. So once that happened, interviews started coming in. Somebody interviewed me from Texas, and somebody from Hawaii. I was on his podcast, but he did a live and then
Yeah.
put it on YouTube. Um, and I was just very overwhelmed. I don't like to show myself. I'm just a mom, so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do this, but I mean, this is the only way I can promote the book. And I had some opportunities of other books that came out that I did the art for because I'm a strong advocate for autism, because my daughter has autism. And I did it's in my story right now on Instagram, understanding the mind of autism through art and poetry. I did the
Right.
art portion of it.
Okay.
That one's published everywhere. You can find that anywhere.
Gotcha.
If you look up my name, that book comes up everywhere. I decided to do Twilight Realm in my pen name, because it's always scary to print a book or publish a book under you, because you don't want to get the backlash if nobody
Right.
likes it.
Right.
So I picked K Foss, and Foss for Foskin. But the K is my sister's name that passed away, so I wanted to put her into the book too. So
Gotcha. Well, you beat me to the punch because I was definitely going to ask about the pen name,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, you covered that. I mean, I completely understand, but you talked about a lot of different things about just being able, being nervous, being on these shows and stuff. But what you're doing is an inspiration. You're giving people hope. You know, you seeing this journey through and all the loss that you've been through and everything and like you said, this book was a healing process. And I mean,
Yeah.
you're giving people something to hold on to and to look up to because you've seen it through to the end and you put it out there, you put yourself out there. It's an incredible story. And I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
it's just absolutely amazing.
Well,
Absolutely.
I always suggest, writers when they're writing, that, I've learned something I took creative writing back in high school. I think it was my senior year. And we had a great teacher. And I used to create stories when I was in the eighth grade. I had a journal, made up things. I went to Europe one weekend, I had a pony the next. So, and it's supposed to be your life, but I created a whole new world.
Right.
I
Right.
thought I was going to get in trouble because my teacher said to me that did you go to Disney this weekend? I did,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that was my imagination. So,
Gotcha.
but the one thing I've learned and that stayed with me about creative writing, is that you show and don't tell the story. So you show the story and not tell. Well, you can still tell the story, but you show it. So what he taught us, he made us go outside in the rain, and we had to stand there in the rain for about 15 minutes getting poured on, and we didn't understand. So we're just sitting there, complaining, being mean, and you know, and then he just says, "Now everybody just listen." And we were listening or whatever, and like, this is pathetic. And then
Yeah.
when we finally went in, he's like, "Now you're going to write about how you felt in the rain. What were the smells in the rain?"
Right.
So we had to really think of, oh, and that's basically your basic storytelling is when you
Right.
can show your story and not just tell it. So.
Exactly. You make it alive for somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, I had to do a lot of editing, because, the first draft I put out of Twilight Realm was, there was some minor mistakes, some grammar errors, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're always going to have those, but when I republished it again, um I ended up, getting that fixed through Amazon. So
Gotcha.
Amazon approached me, wanting to do my marketing. So a lot of those
Okay.
marketing posters,
Yeah.
um, and stuff like that are on my wall. I actually have a K Foss author page on Instagram that I barely go on. I just use the posters to promote it.
Gotcha.
And then they do it organically. So I'm on Goodreads, but eventually they put me on InstaSpark. That will, eventually I'll get to be in other platforms. So it just takes a little
Okay.
time. So, um, but yeah, they approached me with it, so I took the bait. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
like,
So
anything to promote my book. I don't need to do it,
I I got you. So let's dive into that for a second. So when you got ready, you said they approached you. Did you you hit them up and you submitted your book and they just kind of
Yeah,
read over it and
yeah,
went from there? Or?
so they I submitted the book. I gave them a small fee to re-edit my book. So the
Gotcha.
Kindle version of my book is like perfectly edited,
Okay.
which was, I felt relieved in a way because there wasn't like I had to read it over what they picked for mistakes and stuff. And I'm like, the only thing that they found was like I spelled pendant wrong. there's two different ways, but I spelled those two different ways. I'm like, damn
Gotta
it,
hate the English language. That's
you
why
know what I
it's the
mean?
hardest
So,
in the world, I guess.
but there was very minor, so I was very thankful after all the editing that I did. They just took it over. They decided to do chapters. So any of that stuff that they edited is going to go to, eventually Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. But you'll get the original version on Amazon in my book form, the original of how I edited it. But the Kindle is edited, so
Okay.
they stole that. But
And hey,
I
hold on just 1 second. I hate to interrupt. Guys, look down in the description. Now's the time to plug it. We've got it. I've got the link, her Amazon link right here in the description. Jump on there right now and go pick up a copy. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Just wanted to plug
um,
it.
another thing that I did. So if you look at the reviews and stuff for my book, it's so funny. A lot of people buy my book. I'm like, can you just review it? I mean, I don't have a lot of reviews, but I have a lot of books sold. But
Right.
I don't care if it's a bad review. I just want to know what people think. So, okay, don't give me a bad review. You
I
can't be
won't. I
below
won't.
4.5 or something like that.
Gotcha.
Um, the difference is that I put my art in the book.
Oh
So,
wow.
so I have the characters in the back of the book. So
That's
when you're
amazing.
reading the book, a lot of people don't know because they don't. People when they buy books, they don't open it up to see what's in there,
No,
and
no,
especially
they
when
just
you're
pick
at
up
the
a
end,
copy.
and then you
Yeah.
see these pictures, you're like, oh, these are the characters.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing in the back form, and somebody suggests, are you going to do a comic book? No, no,
Yeah.
I can draw, but I don't have the patience to draw a whole book, especially if I
Gotcha.
have to get the whole meaning of my life in a book.
Right.
Even though it's
Right.
not a big book, um, I've done some skits on my Instagram of certain parts of the story, and I've been actually incorporating some of the Twilight Realm in the part two.
Okay.
So my first live, I ever did, people were after my first interview, and then I did a live. People were asking for a second book, so
Gotcha.
I'm working on the second book now. But this story can go in any direction. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the second book is actually a sequel. So the second book I decided to do because you can do the origin stories of the queens, but I wanted to do the next generation type thing on the
Right.
second book.
Right.
But I ended up writing that, but I'm not done. It won't be done until probably mid December. With everything going on with my life right now, it's all like crazy. So I've been spending a lot of time. Um, so I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
What you said your daughter's a writer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What does she write?
She same thing. She's fantasy. She's developing a series right now that she's getting everything laid out. She's working on that. She's pretty much just like you were talking. Ever since elementary, early middle school, she just loves writing. She started writing all these amazing stories, and it, of course, I'm proud, but not just because she's my daughter. She's a wonderful writer, but
Yeah.
she has confidence issues. She'll get halfway through a book. I can't tell you how many different books I've read from her that she'll get 50 pages in, 75 pages in, 100 pages in, and then, well, I'm gonna redo it. I don't like the way this was going. I, and I tell her all the time, just finish it. See it through to the end, get it done, and just put it out there. You know, if they don't, if the first one doesn't hit, write another one.
Yeah,
Just get it
yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
Well, that's the thing with this book. I can still go back and I've read it a couple of times. So the one thing when I read this, I was satisfied. So it did help. It helped me. I've never been so satisfied about a book because I think it healed me, and I
Yeah.
want people to heal and be related to it. And I think that's what the important part is, that as a writer, to write about experience. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be exactly the experience of what I went through, but some, like what you've been through
Right.
in your life, and
Exactly.
incorporate that into your book or your story. Um, Write it down, write it all down, then go back and edit and add. I mean, there were so
Right.
many times I was writing and then I would stop because I'm like, oh, I like this better. Then I have to go back to chapter one to fix it, to incorporate what I just wrote like 10
Yeah.
chapters later. So it is a process, but as long as she finishes it, and the confidence part, it will happen. And you as a father, you're gonna say, this is amazing. Have I don't know if she's on Instagram or anything,
Oh yeah.
but have her do some of her followers to read it and give
Gotcha.
her any feedback and stuff. I see that, like, they're test people that read. I've done a
Right.
few, so um, to see what's missing, or does it sound good type thing.
Right.
So that would probably build her confidence. It's just with mine, I wanted to incorporate that Twilight Realm wasn't 5,000 pages long, so I made it about 200 pages long, and that's enough. You can
Yeah.
publish up, you can publish Amazon for 50 pages and up. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
so it doesn't matter how many pages you have, um, but with the 200 pages, I made it simple to read. So because I've met so many people that don't like to read, so I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I might do an Audible, but then I have people that you know um, like to read. So it's just now they have many platforms. I'm gonna cheat if when I wrote my book, I wrote it on my iPad and phone, and because I don't have a computer, I actually my daughter does, but I don't. And so I did everything on my phone. And what was cool about it is that I had Siri read it back to me.
Oh wow.
So when I'm like driving, I would play it over my Bluetooth and
Yeah.
and hear any mistakes, because it's different when you're reading without reading out loud,
Right.
not
You hear
noticing the
what you want to
mistakes.
hear
Yeah.
basically when you're reading to
Yeah. And when
yourself.
you hear somebody else
Yeah.
reading it, you're like, oh,
You're like, yeah,
know,
that is some
that
wait a
didn't
minute, that don't
sound
sound
right,
right.
.
Yeah.
But I encourage her to write, and don't be afraid to publish, because publishing is free on Amazon. So that was the key that kind of enticed me. I didn't expect to be um, getting a lot of orders. You do get a commission. You do get
Okay.
royalties for it. Um, so it really depends. Like, you're going to get royalties more for Kindle versions than you are on your paperback or hardcover. The good thing about Amazon, they print on demand. So
Okay.
if you decided to buy a book today, they print it and send it.
Oh
They don't
wow.
have a 50,000 stockpile
Right,
of
right,
your
right.
books, so they end up printing it on demand. So so your royalties are a little bit less. Well, okay, a lot
Gotcha.
less, but I always suggest people to buy the book. And with Amazon helping me, they bump my royalties up a little bit higher. So, um, but nothing to break the bank in. I didn't sell like a billion books, so it's not not like I can quit my job and. But
Right,
you know
right.
what though? It
You got it out there.
I exactly. And
Yeah.
the key thing out of all this is that I wanted to leave a legacy,
Right.
because my mom telling me she hasn't lived enough, she didn't have nothing to show, made me think that, okay, I need to do something to be known, because all of us need to be known. We all
Right.
want that acceptance of if I pass away, is anybody going to even remember me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, a little dark there, but um,
I completely get it. I was talking to somebody about that a while back. People want to be remembered in different ways. Nobody wants to leave a bad legacy.
yeah,
Some people they have children to live on. Or creatives want to create. We want to make something that stands the test of time. We want to leave something that somebody can come back to and say, "Oh wow, this is amazing." I wonder what this person was like, and they go from there. And it's really cool to be able to leave something like that behind because one day your great 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 grandchild look back and hey, this was my great 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 granny. She wrote this novel, and
yeah.
it's amazing. Amazing. And
Well, I
OMG, I
wanted to
posted it
become a
right here. OMG
movie.
said brilliant. He loved it. He
I said I wanted to become a movie.
gotcha.
I'm trying to hit up people. Like the only thing I
Right.
don't have
Hey,
is a
make a movie
producer.
of my yeah, definitely.
I need a
Definitely.
producer. I need producers out there to pay for my movie. I
Right.
have a I have a composer. I have a director. I just need a producer.
Yeah, you need money bags. Mr. Moneybags come in
Yeah,
and say,
I
all
do.
right, we're fixing to make
I want
Twilight
somebody to
Realm.
believe in my story.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
that's the amazing thing. You've got this thing out on Amazon. Who knows who's going to see this? It's out there for the whole world. And hey, who's to say right now somebody is not looking at this story and saying, this would make a great movie. And they might hit you up tomorrow. Netflix, Amazon,
yeah.
all these
I
people
mean
are looking for
anything.
content.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
IP.
especially when the writers' strike was happening, I'm like
Yeah.
trying to get my book out there. I'm like sending it. Like I would
Let me
boost
fill
my
the void.
story
Yeah.
to send it to Burbank and stuff like that.
Right, right.
You know, if you don't have anything to write, here's one.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, but when I did, yeah, like I said, encourage your daughter.
Oh,
I'm here
always.
on Instagram.
Always.
She can follow me.
I'll be
But
sure and tell them.
I always encourage people to write. So and people ask who inspires you as writer,
Yeah.
and Neil Gaiman does, or
Oh,
Gaiman,
wow. Yeah, that's a good
so
one.
Sandman. I
Oh,
love
beautiful
his
story.
graphic novels.
Yeah.
Coraline, but American Gods, all these
Yeah.
things he wrote, and he's pretty simple. One of my favorite books was Stardust. Um,
That's a good one.
that's like the only one that was kind of fantasy, but they made a movie out of it, and
Right,
I was
right.
sad because it was a good movie, but it just didn't do well.
Yeah. It didn't take off.
Yeah,
I, it's kind of become a cult classic. My kids love it. I love it. Every
yeah,
once
I
in a while,
always
we
watch
go
it when
back and
it's
watch
on.
it. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. So, also who inspires me is other authors. So, other independent authors I met on Instagram. So, every author I meet on Instagram, I buy their book. Well, most of them.
Got
Or I will be broke. So, I buy their book.
completely understand. Yeah,
I buy their book and I read it. And then, like for the holidays, I would, promote their book for Christmas presents. You know what I mean?
right, right,
So, some people hate Instagram, some people love Instagram. Instagram helped me through this whole process, and
yeah,
some of my followers were great followers on here that kind of showed me the way. Because I was
gotcha.
clueless. I was like, "What am I doing?" They're like, "Go on to professional accounts, start putting your art out." Blah blah blah.
Right,
So I
right.
went I went like crazy from like 145 all the way up to 11 grand. So I was like, within almost a 2 year stance. So it was like, oh my goodness. But
Yeah.
yeah, they all helped me and pushed me. And, I have people that are on Instagram that, when's your next live? And I try to join people's lives. Like I joined your live, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
watching. I jump on
Right.
people's lives. Um, so it just gets me to know, people that I follow or like I didn't follow you, but I was following somebody that was doing a live and just kind of start following people there and getting getting to know them and stuff like that. But what I usually do is I ask people to DM me some of their art because I do miss some of their art and I feel terrible that I can't like their art or their stories or stuff like that because
Yeah.
I can't see them all. And plus, you get blocked after you liking 200 things, so it's like,
Yeah. I'm telling you, the algorithm is straight garbage. I mean, I miss the day. Used to, you could post something, and I mean, get 200 likes in no time, and they've
yeah,
messed with the algorithm so much. People that I follow and are good friends with, I have to search them to actually see what they're posting because the algorithm won't let me see their stuff. I actually have to search them out, pull up their page to see if they put anything new out. It aggravates me. Yeah,
what I've been doing is if anybody's liking my content, I go to their page to like theirs because
yeah,
I'm like,
that's a good
oh
one
well, this
too.
is an
Yeah.
opportunity if they saw
Right,
it,
right.
Yeah, the algorithm is um, not friendly right now, and I
No,
think a lot of
it
people are
hasn't been in
frustrated.
a long time. Yeah,
I mean,
it,
you're trying to do your best as an artist because you are an artist, and you're trying your best to get your content out,
mhm.
and you're trying all these different hashtags, So it's
Right,
like then you're looking at people with greater,
yeah,
followings or likes, and you're kind of looking at their hashtags to take from them. You know what I mean? It's like, what
exactly.
are they using?
You're
So
looking
you
for
go
any
from
way to
there.
kind of, yeah, you're looking for any way in.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are they doing different that I'm not doing? Yeah,
Well, when you look at, as an artist or a writer, you want to go outside the spectrum of your
right,
writing and art because
exactly,
you can't sell your art to an artist. You know what I mean?
exactly,
Because they're an artist, So you want to
right,
kind of expand out there. The same thing with writers, At least my following artists like to read. so, um, but like you want to get your book out there to other people that like to read. You know what I
right,
mean? So, and it's kind of outside your bubble and trying to get it out there that way. But yeah, I tried different things. So it's right now it's like some of my art gets like 500 likes, some get 1,000, and then some get
yeah,
100. And I'm like, what did
yeah,
I do that got it? That was that bad, that I only got a
yeah,
100 likes.
right.
But
I know exactly what you mean. What kills me, you'll spend, okay, say, I spent all day working on a page for my comic, and
yeah,
I'll post that, and it might get 10 likes. Then I'll do a little sketch that takes me like 2 minutes, and it gets like five, six, 700 views, and I'm like, what in the world?
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
never
If
know.
you look,
It's a weird thing. It really
I
is.
I kind of blew up when I did my first movie trailer. I showed you a movie trailer I
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
That didn't make as much as the Twilight Realm, the Old Ways trailer. The very first one I made did 500,000 views.
wow.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
So I pinned those at the top of my reels because I mean, you'll
gotcha.
see me go from 300 to 1,000 to 29,000. I'm like, you know,
Exactly. And you never
I
know
guess
what's
people
going
like
to hit.
movie trailers, but
Yeah.
or book trailers, and that's what it was. So, but
And I know that's the coolest thing. There's just so much out there nowadays, so that you can engage and do these things right by yourself. You know,
yeah, yeah,
there's all this software. You can promote your own stuff. I mean, yeah, like you said, you jumped into Instagram and it just grew. You know, it just blew up. But
yeah. It
I
blew
mean,
up.
it,
I mean, I
yeah,
had about 2,000 followers in February. In October, I had 147. And but it was my Instagram account,
yeah,
like friends and stuff. But then somebody's like, okay, press professional account, and
yeah,
then um, and start putting your art on there. And
yeah,
people will start liking your art and follow everybody. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, and but once I hit 2,000, I'm like, okay, this is a good start to publish my book, and then it
Right,
just blew
right.
up from there.
I
So,
agree.
but I have my little fan base of my book, but I have a lot of my artist friends that are just following me for my art and don't
Right.
realize I wrote a book. So it's interesting. So, but
Okay. From an artist perspective, I've got to ask this question. What do you enjoy more, drawing or writing?
I actually equally like both.
Okay.
Um,
That's
art,
fair. Yeah.
art. My father taught me how to draw when I was in seventh grade, and not seventh grade. I'm sorry, when I was 7. Excuse me. Damn cold. Um, my first thing I ever drew was a unicorn, and kind of went from there and started drawing Disney characters and stuff.
Gotcha.
In third grade, that's when I started writing, and I always incorporated. I had a great imagination, and growing up in the suburbs in Germany, and then coming to the States for school and everything, and then going back to Germany for the summer, it was just like the two cultures were so different.
Right.
And where I live now is very similar to Germany. It has the mountains and stuff like that, and doesn't have the cold though.
Yeah.
It's cold here, but but I always was writing in a journal or writing things down. A lot of it is in my head. A lot of writers have everything in their heads.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
the I have the story planned out. I have the beginning, the end, and the middle, but I have to do the research because where my book takes place, next book is in England, so I have
Okay.
to do my research in England.
Right.
The first book was in Germany, so I have to do I had to do my research about Germany, and stuff. So different. I had in the beginning. There's a German, her speaking German, but it's just um, one line, just because I just want to make people know that it's German,
Yeah.
So, but
So tell me this, and you might have said it earlier and I missed it, and if I did, I apologize. Now, when you started this book, were you looking, did you have it planned out to be a series, or were you just going with that one story
just this
and
one
it
book.
just kind of organic, yeah. And
Yeah,
then so organically, it kind of grew into this whole world where you could do spinoffs. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Gotcha.
yes, yes. I think Ryan Grounds, the first guy that interviewed me from Texas, he had a friend that worked in the ER, and he worked third shift. And Ryan got the book, and his friend needed a book to read, so he gave him mine. He read the book in like 2 days, and then he said his friend came back, and he said, "Does she have any more books?" Because this is a really good book.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
writes like Stephen King. I'm like, I do not write like Stephen King. This is not a horror book. But I know that Stephen King had pen names on different types of
Mhm.
stories. So Green Mile wasn't really
He's
much better.
known for horror, but I mean, he's wrote so many wonderful things that people don't even recognize him for.
Yeah, he
Like The
does
Green
what?
Mile, Shawshank Redemption,
Yeah,
these short
yeah.
stories. I mean, do you ever have plans to do different media books, like maybe diving into horror or maybe
I've
nonfiction? Or,
I've always I always did fantasy. Will I write a book about my real life? Maybe, but or related to something. But
right.
the fantasy, it always drives me in because I believe in magic, and I
Yeah.
think magic is everywhere. You know what I mean? Energies are everywhere. Energy is big in my book. Um, so it's just it incorporates healing, relatability, realism when it comes to where she's located. Um, and realism is that she starts as a human,
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
but it's just, and then what if you go into a forest that's the Black Forest, and you find this meadow that there's nothing in there. It's no growth. There's nothing but
Yeah.
a stone that is activated by a pendant that her mom left behind for her. So it's just, I've always been creative in that way. I think I told my daughter I would be a storyteller to my daughter, and there was one because she didn't want me to read books. She told me to talk about, like
Yeah. Tell me a
tell
story.
me a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
You
Tell me
know,
a story. Yeah.
And every time I tell her a story, she was like, there was one story that was in my, because, she was very close to my parents. And when they passed away, she was only 9. So um, when she was little, I would tell her the story about grandma's closet. And inside that closet is a little door. And in that door, it was a little fantasy world that my mother fell into.
Oh,
That
wow.
had talking deer and talking animals. My
Yeah.
God, she was digging through that closet for 3 days, and my mom couldn't figure out why.
Looking for Narnia. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was like, "Where's the door?" And I'm like, "Oh,"
You
and
didn't
then
mess with it. You mean you didn't find it? It's gone now?
yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, I'm a caring parent, but then she wanted me to read or a story tell. And back in the day when I did creative writing, I did write a little bit of horror short stories. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And one was where we live. We have a nuclear power plant, and what was so funny about it was that she wanted me to tell her a scary story, and I'm like, well, a nuclear
Wow.
power plant, it melted down, and there were some survivors, but people went underground, and when they came out, the people that couldn't save themselves and go underground became scabs, you know.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I'm telling
Yeah.
her this story and how these people are trying to escape these scab people.
Her eyes are getting bigger and bigger the whole
Yeah,
time.
yes. Then
You
she
giving her
start
nightmares.
she started crying because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you told me to tell you a scary story. And she goes, all I can imagine is a big scab, like a scab from a cut,
Yeah. Right.
running around with arms and legs.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I stopped telling her. Every time she says, tell me a scary story, I'm like, nope. you know. But yeah. I think that's the big thing about having an imagination and bouncing off like with your daughter, bouncing off on your friends. My daughter's a storyteller, and when she writes, she's writing a book now, and when she writes, I just sit there and I'm like in school, she's writing. She's a senior now, and she's right. It's like they told her to write Macbeth in
Oh,
a
wow.
section where it was kind of vague. So she
Yeah.
had to create between the funeral and the dinner, you
Gotcha.
know.
Wow.
And so
That's a good
she,
project, though. I
yeah,
mean,
so
that's,
she had
yeah.
to create in between there. And when she read it to me, I'm like, I, I'm like, you wrote this better than the book, you know.
Yeah.
I want to know. Now I know what happened in between, because that's what she
Right.
thought would happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
That was her head canon for the book. Yeah.
and that's, with the English classes now, that's what they teach them. They would tell a short story, but they're gonna tell you to write like a prequel of why do they want to kill this guy. You know
Right.
what I mean? And what
What's
was his,
driving them? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
what was the feelings of the guy that killed him? Why does he
Yeah.
want to kill him so bad? Because it's very vague of why he died or why he killed him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
You look back at the older books, there's a lot of that though. But now the newer stuff, you can see that they're like even in movies, because most movies come from some sort of literature, whether it be an actual book or a screenplay, but they're getting more descriptive. They're diving deeper into the story. You know, you're going
yeah,
back and you're having prequels, or you're just like Star Wars. I hate to do this
Star
because
Wars.
I'm a Star Wars
Yeah.
nerd. They told that story. Then Lucas, they kept hitting him up. Oh, we want more. We want more. Well, he goes back and he tells the story of Anakin. He does the
Yeah.
prequels,
Yeah.
and then J.J. Abrams comes along here in the last few years and takes it after, and
Yeah.
they move forward. A good story can go in any direction, you know.
Yes. You could do spin-offs. It was funny because
Exactly.
with the second book, it was funny because I did a live recently a couple months ago, and I did it with my daughter, who's the editor of my book. She's an editor. She's
She's
like,
my editor, and my daughter's my editor as
oh my
well.
god,
Yeah.
my daughter is like, she would know if I made like a period, and she's like, oh my god, you did a semicolon, mom. I've never seen you do a semi. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah.
But
Cut me a little slack. Yeah.
when she was my biggest fan, so she was reading it
That's awesome.
when I was writing it, and that was the first beginnings of my writings. And she actually helped me along with it too, because like, in the battle scene, I was like, you know what, uh, I I said to my daughter, I was like, you got to read this battle scene because there's going to be men that are going to be reading this, and I want to make sure it's like men material.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she read it. She thought it was really good. It was very short. I didn't want it to do prolonged, like 20 pages of war,
Right.
but I wanted to do something that was kind of to the point, but you could see it all happening, you
Right.
know. And she threw in, I mean, there's a section in there about trolls, and she threw those trolls in. And the way I'm like, I don't know what the trolls should be doing. She goes, Mom, the trolls should be doing this. I'm like, perfect. So we collab together um, on certain parts of the story. Um, and, what people don't know is that Eve is based off my daughter. So a lot of the people I draw is based on family members.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see them as cartoons or whatever.
Right. Right.
So it's about it's scary at first. So if your daughter's writing something and she has to write 5,000 different edits, no, to have her, when she reads it, she has to be satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And don't keep going back to it, because it's when you're happy. Don't let anybody um,
Get in your head.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let anybody else. Well, I have to make that person happy. It's
Yeah.
what makes you happy to
Exactly.
publish that book, not what anybody else thinks. Because if you do that, yes, it's going to get in your head and you're never going to finish it.
Right.
So when she reads it and she'll show to you, or you read it, or a friend reads it, they think it's excellent, she's going to be satisfied. So
Right.
but she has to be satisfied with it.
Exactly.
Don't let
Yeah.
people dictate your story.
Right.
Oh, maybe you should have put this in there, or maybe you do this.
What if they did this? Or yeah, I
Yeah.
got
So no, you have your story planned out. You can take their ideas
yeah,
and as feedback, but you have to like your story. Don't change it because you're going to please somebody else.
right, right,
And I didn't change mine because I heard that you could have made the battle scene longer, or um, you know they wanted more character build up, and I'm like, well, I have two other books coming out. There's going to be plenty of
yeah.
character building,
For down the
but
road, yeah,
my character building is enough. It's to the point. It's enough. It describes them. It makes the book makes you feel, and that's the most important part. It's what
exactly.
people feel, and I think that's the number one um, uh, reviews I get. This is not my genre, but this story is really good,
Right.
or somebody told me to read this, and I'm like, nah, I don't know. And then I read it, and I was pleasantly surprised. So there's a lot of feeling in it, and like I said, because I was satisfied when I finished it, and that's all that matters. Because there's going to be somebody out there that's going to relate to my story, because there could be somebody out there that lost both their parents.
Yeah.
There could be somebody out there that lives in Germany. I mean, it could relate
Yeah.
to anything, or like fairies. Because I did a lot of research on fairies on top of it. Different types of fairies, and um, I changed names. Of different
Yeah.
types of fairies. Like, the main character Ivan, he's a centaur, centaur. But I
There you go.
call them fawns, because I just think fawns are prettier. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right.
but they're related to that. I mean, it's the same.
Gotcha.
So, but the good thing about fantasy is you create your own world.
Yeah.
So you can do anything you want. You
Exactly.
know,
You
like
make
people
your
don't
own
know.
rules.
You
Yeah.
know, you don't know their magic, and people are like, "What's her magic?" Oh, well, she has the magic of fire and growth and healing, and then transformation. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." So and the
Well,
same
you
thing
said
is,
some. Sorry, you said something just a second ago that I really locked onto, and I mean it's a lesson for life in general. You got to do it for you. You can't do it for anybody else.
no,
You gotta anything you go about to do in life. If you're doing it for somebody else to make them happy, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
exactly,
You at the end of the day, you have to do it for you. You got to do what makes you happy. You
yeah.
know.
And that's the key takeaway that I try to
Yeah.
encourage all writers. Write what makes you happy,
Right.
because if you're gonna get feedback, I mean, I know a lot. I knock on wood. I think I got a 4-star rating, but everybody that read it could relate to it, or liked it, and you could say you hate it, but still give me 4 stars. But um, I feedback is good, because then
Yeah.
you learn that,
Exactly.
okay, maybe one person like picked out the pendant mistake, and I'm like, oh, come on,
Yeah.
so it's like
I tell you
everybody
though,
will miss that, but in my mind, everybody's gonna see it.
right. The awesome thing about feedback, whether even if it's negative, you know, and they come back and say, and they're picking apart something you done. Guess what? That means they read it. Number
Yeah,
one, you
yeah,
know, and you pulled them in. You got them in there. You got
yeah,
their attention. So you did that. You know. So I
yeah.
mean, I
That's the
love negative feedback. If I do
yeah,
something that sucks, hey, tell me it sucks. Tell me why it sucks. Don't just
yeah,
tell me it sucks.
yeah.
Give me a path forward from that. You
And
know.
it's constructive criticism, so you have to
Exactly.
kind of deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like I said, with your daughter, if she's really, if anybody is out there writing, write for yourself. You
Right.
know, I always encourage people that are writing comic books that you can publish that on Amazon too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because they do print on demand and they
Yeah.
have a form that's glossy. So, if you put your art and stuff and do the layout, they'll print it on demand. So, I've seen
That's
comic books
awesome.
there.
Yeah.
So,
So
or,
I see. I didn't know that. I didn't know the whole process of it. I knew they would print your books, but I didn't even know how you even went about doing that. I had no
uh,
clue.
well, you kind of set it up. I mean, you go into KPD, uh, Kindle Publishing Direct.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
there's a YouTube video. I've been sending people YouTube videos of how to do it.
YouTube's
Um,
amazing. You can find out how to do anything on YouTube.
yeah, I know. So and it tells you, and like I said, it's all free. You get
Yeah.
royalties for doing nothing. But so when you do it, you could superimpose your cover. It has everything there. So it says upload.
Everything, all the tools are there you need to actually
Yeah,
fit
it says upload
everything.
cover,
Oh,
upload
wow.
content. And it'll tell you if it fits or it doesn't fit.
Right.
And then you fix it. And then once you feel satisfied, you hit live, and within 24 hours, it's up on Amazon. And
Wow.
then you
That's amazing.
promote the crap out of it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So,
Well,
but
that's amazing. That really is. And like I said earlier, you put it out there. You're you're giving somebody hope, Joyce, and that's an amazing thing. That's rare in the world we live in. So
yeah,
there's so much bad. It's nice to have some good, some light in the darkness. So
yeah.
it's
Well,
just
that's my book.
congratulations on the book.
Yeah,
Uh, Congratulations ahead of time on the sequel, which I know is going to do gangbusters.
yeah,
I can't wait. I'm going to hit it up down here, guys, in the description. Hit the link, get the book, read it, and like Joyce said, even if you don't like it, 4 stars. But
yeah.
give us some feedback.
Well, if you
Let
don't
let
like
me know
it
what. Yeah,
and you like my art, then you have some free art in the back of the book.
there you go.
Yeah. But Kindle, it has the art also. So people don't
Awesome.
think that. They think it's just like all reading. But at the end, you
Yeah.
still have the pictures at the end. So, but, well, good luck with your daughter. I hope to see
Thank
her
you so much.
get that published. I hope you get some publishes. I know you do things with Kickstarter, which is
Yeah.
a separate entity than I am. I'm like, I've just published the book, but you guys can publish it on Amazon. So,
Right.
I mean, I've seen it there. I've looked at graphic novels. I've seen different things on there. So,
Well, that's amazing. I tell you, thank you so much for your time,
yeah,
Joyce,
no
for
worries.
coming on here and just telling everybody how to do a book how,
Yeah,
from nothing. Just come
yeah,
and like you said, you write what you know. You got the best books. They grab you and they don't let go. And it sounds like you've got that. You wrote from your own experiences, even though it's set in fantasy. You wrote from a place of grief and recovery,
yeah,
and that's what people can lock on to, and it sounds like that's what they've done. They've seen through all that other and locked on to that, and in many ways it's helping people heal. It's
yeah.
giving them a way to heal that have actually went through the same things that you have. So it's absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Now buy my book. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
hey,
just
yeah, hey, plug yourself. We're fixing to shut this down because you drove through a blizzard. She drove through a
yeah,
blizzard, you
Blizzard.
guys.
Buy
Buy
my
the
book.
damn book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where can they follow you at, Joyce?
So I'm under Joyce Foskin on Instagram. So you can click my link in my bio. Twilight Realm is right there. If you don't see it or you feel confused about it, then you can always DM me and I can send you a link. But it's on Amazon right now and Goodreads. But it's all click to it. You can click right on to Amazon. Hopefully in the future I'll see it in other platforms. But right now it's on Amazon and Kindle. Will I do an Audible? maybe when book 2 comes out, because that
Gotcha.
you have to pay for somebody to read it for you. So
Okay.
it's like,
Okay. And hey, I made it easy for you guys. The link is right there in the description. It will take you straight there. So
yeah.
just jump in there, buy the book, guys. Get the book. Just check it
Or,
out.
yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and I
Once
appreciate you for
again,
doing it. So,
thank you so much for being on,
okay.
Joyce. And I hope to have you on again when
Yeah,
book 2 comes out and we can talk about that.
yeah, and hopefully you'll interview your daughter when her
Yeah.
book comes out.
When her book comes out, I can
Yeah.
have her on the show. She'll probably stand me up. She'll be too big time for me then. No,
Well, she
Dad,
doesn't have
I've
to have
got,
the camera on. You can just hear her voice.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
my daughter does. So, so, but
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for your time, Joyce.
Okay.
Hey, feel better. Uh,
Yes, thank you.
orange juice, chicken noodle soup, all that good stuff to kick that
Yes,
tail.
yes. Okay. You take care.
You too.
Okay.
Hey, that's the show,
Bye.
you guys.
Bye.
Take it easy. Till next time.